Hey, it's the Nerdy Sports Fan. This is week 8, Nerdy Sports Fan Weekly. So, as I record this, we're in the middle of the second game of the World Series. So, naturally, I want to talk football and basketball because, baseball's not a sport. Um, anyways, in the league, we have a few things going on. We have Quadre Diggs just got traded to the Seahawks. He says he was blindsided by the trade, but it doesn't matter. You're going from a team that's bottom in their division to a team that's, as of right now, in a strong playoff position. The only reason they're not leading their division is the division leader's undefeated. So, Quadre Diggs is playing a position of need for Seattle. They've had a void there ever since Earl Thomas flipped Pete Carroll the Bird, and yeah, they've needed stronger safety play. Quadre Diggs can definitely provide that, and he's going to enjoy some years playing for a team that actually plays playoff games. So I think he'll be able to get over it. Now, Drew Brees is talking about coming back from his injury this week. I don't think he should. I think they don't need Drew Brees to beat the Cardinals. Teddy Bridgewater is undefeated as the Saints quarterback this season. He can handle the Cardinals. Brees is the man in that locker room. And he can take the bye week and transition back into play. I think the reason he's pushing to get back into the starting lineup is because Teddy Bridgewater is undefeated in his absence. And he doesn't want people thinking about why he's going to be the starter through the bye week when there's no NFL news in that town. He doesn't want there to be a question. So I understand that, but trust me, Mr. Brees, you are unquestionably the man in that town. You're the only person that's brought a Super Bowl ring to New Orleans, and guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer. You're the only person keeping Tom Brady from passing all sorts of records. So, yeah, you're fine. Okay? Take the extra week. Take the bye week. Come back strong after the bye. Rest up as much as you can for a deep playoff run that's likely to end up in a Super Bowl ring for New Orleans because they are clearly the best team in the league. Anybody who's backup can be undefeated. When somebody of Brees' caliber goes down, that means the team around him is far superior to their competition. So, elsewhere in the league, Josh Gordon goes on into reserve. This likely ends his career. He's been a pain in the ass for every team that he's touched. The Browns got rid of him in spite of being immensely talented. He catches on with the Patriots, and he's been suspended multiple times. Now, a lot of times people have said that this is more of a mental health issue than a weed issue, because he's definitely been suspended for weed, but it could be. I can't deny outright that this is a mental health issue, because seriously, weed is being used for mental health issues, all sorts of them. People have reported anxiety and depression both being helped by regular marijuana use, and there's versions that are less get you high, more just help level you out. So a lot of people are ill-informed of what's available from marijuana for these sorts of things because, well, politicians just want to win points, and it's easy to rail against something. It's hard to educate people about things. So you can win votes by saying, hey, marijuana is bad and it's going to make your children bad. And that's what's going on. There's a lot of misinformation. A lot of misinformation. If you want to tell me that pot's any worse for you than booze, you're an idiot. Josh Gordon will likely have no more career after this, though. he's had so many chances, and he keeps on getting suspended. He keeps on having all these off-field issues that keeps him out of the league. Now throw in injuries and age to the mix. There's less and less incentive to have that guy in your lineup every day. So, happy trails, Mr. Gordon. You've had your time in the sun. It's time to move on. Outside of these more prominent issues, I do want to touch on something that I feel is an obvious point. And I have two examples for this. Positive to my point and a counterpoint. I've felt for some time that there's only two positions in the NFL where any sort of racial bias ever actually comes in. Now, the NFL is a team that is predominantly black players. I want to say 60+%. Yet, in spite of those statistics, coaching and quarterback play has been predominantly white for as long as I can remember. And I don't understand why, because the players that I see being retreads and continually used over and over and over and over again, the veterans that just keep seeming to get work, those are the ones that are keeping the numbers skewed, not the young talents. The young talents get spread pretty much the way it's supposed to, especially now. So, for every Baker Mayfield, there's a Lamar Jackson. For every Mitch Trubisky, there's a Deshaun Watson. Now, I point those out for multiple reasons. One, I mean, there's more of a level playing field with young quarterbacks coming in that are black. But two, it's not as level as it should be. Because in both cases, a guy with less talent got drafted way high. And a guy who's obviously really ready for this job much later in the first round. And I can't help but think there's a bias there. I looked at Lamar Jackson's tape coming out of college. He was eye-popping. I mean, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate for multiple years. I mean, sophomore year, this guy was putting up gaudy numbers. Yet, a few other teammates of his get drafted. They're not as strong for his senior season. His numbers go down a bit. And all of a sudden, random Baker Mayfield is way better than Lamar Jackson. All of a sudden, Josh Rosen is way better than Lamar Jackson. Well, not in reality. We see what's going on this season. Lamar Jackson's better than both of those guys. He's better than Josh Allen. Three dudes. Highly touted quarterbacks, yes, but were they really better than Lamar Jackson? Or did they just get drafted ahead of him because of that crappy, maybe you should be a running back sort of conversation that everybody was having about him? This is the reason for the bias in this position. It has not a lot to do with people just thinking, white guys are better. That's not what it is. It's the pipeline. It's how people are treated when they're coming up into the league. It's the Pop Warner levels, the high school levels. When the coach sees a guy who's got just gaudy athleticism, and he's obviously going to be able to run around everybody, he gets pushed towards being a running back or being a wide receiver, instead of maybe going to play quarterback when that same person would have also been the best quarterback on the team. If he's shockingly better than every running back you have available, and only a bit better than the other person you have available at quarterback, from a coaching standpoint, you're naturally going to push that person towards running back instead of playing him at quarterback. And that, I think, is the real problem. We're pushing these young men towards the skill positions that get dinged up instead of allowing them to fill the quarterback position. And it's because in lesser leagues, in high school leagues, in college, running back tends to matter much more than quarterback. And it's reversed in the NFL. So it's harder for these people to get noticed because the league now has an inherent bias. The league has this pipeline of white dudes coming in all the time. And those pipeline players also end up being career backups. I'm bothered because Teddy Bridgewater was overlooked. Teddy Bridgewater was laughed at when he was trying to make his comeback. People were already ushering him out of the league. And now we see that he's rattled off, 5, 6 wins in Drew Brees' absence? When he could have easily, instead of getting his crap 1-year deal to be a backup in New Orleans, he could have been signed as a starter in Washington. He could have been signed as the starter in Miami, where we have retreads who have been bounced around the league, in Case Keenum and Ryan Fitzpatrick, that seem to keep on getting jobs in spite of their inferior play. And, other quarterbacks get ushered out of the league much more quickly. Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job. Whatever you think politically doesn't matter. The last time Colin Kaepernick was playing, he was better than Josh McCown. Josh McCown is in the league again. They just keep on bringing this guy back. Why? I don't know. He's not better than somebody like a Colin Kaepernick. He just isn't. He's not better than Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had to fight his way back as a backup, hoping that a Hall of Fame quarterback would get hurt or retire early and give him a chance, instead of actually getting the chance to just step in and be the guy like Case Keenum was. Case freaking Keenum, okay? This guy has been average at best everywhere he's been, except for one season in Minnesota. He can ride that into multiple starting quarterback contracts, but you can't give that kind of action to a Kaepernick or a Bridgewater. It's criminal. It bothers me to no end. The Russell Wilsons, the Lamar Jacksons, Deshaun Watsons of the league are proving that this is starting to go away. It still needs to go away faster, but I'm glad to see that it's going away. Because the league is so much better today than it was when I was young. It's so much more fun to watch. And a large part of it being fun to watch is athletic quarterback play. I'm not watching a statue behind the line. I'm watching a guy who can run around and make some magic happen. And it's really enjoyable. It really is. These guys, their escapability doesn't turn them into running backs, okay? Their escapability isn't turning them into Mike Vick, where he's not even thinking about throwing the ball and he's just running all around everybody. No. It's allowing them to buy time and play as a better quarterback because they're getting more opportunities to throw the ball because they can avoid people. And I'm really enjoying watching that. I really, truly am. Athletic quarterback play and more college-oriented systems is ushering in a new era in the NFL, and hopefully that means less inherent bias at some of the most important positions in the league. Next, we just got to get the coaches in line with what the rest of the league looks like, because that's still a whole bunch of angry old white dudes. But anyways, away from the NFL, there's a more strange issue. And that's what's going on with the NBA in China. Now, the NBA is taking the heat for what has been a problem with the U.S.'s relationship with China for a very long time, since the Nixon administration, really. China treats its citizens like cattle. They have no basic freedoms. They have no voice in the way the government's run. Now, their government has done some really bad things. They've done some shifty things with their currency, and basic human rights issues have been violated time and time again. The Chinese government is no saint. They've done some things that I actually do like. You know, they're open to steering things towards more green energy more quickly. There's actually policy in there that says that every vehicle in China is going to be an electric car much sooner than everybody else because, well, their government doesn't allow people choice. Now, in this case, they're making the right choice for the long-term health of the world, but they're still not allowing the people to choose that for themselves. They're forcing it on them. So even when they're doing the right thing, they're doing it the wrong way. And the NBA, and specifically LeBron James, is caught in the middle of this. People are asking LeBron his opinion, and he's telling people, hey, my opinion on this is not as educated as it is on other topics. I don't necessarily want to speak on this. I don't want my team to be in the crosshairs of what's going on. Because everything that's going on in China right now is hyper focused on by all sorts of political sources. There's two things going on. You have the trade war with Trump and China, and you have Hong Kong, who's fighting to retain the democratic principles that they've lived under for decades. And they're losing that fight. Now, these issues need to be brought to the forefront. And China needs to be held to account. But who we really need to hold to account is the American businesses that have taken advantage of people turning a blind eye to some serious atrocities coming from the Chinese government in favor of profits, pushing high-priced American jobs over towards low-priced Chinese labor. Now, that price difference that saves the company a bunch of money, it's only because these Chinese workers aren't allowed the same safeguards that American workers are. Labor is cheaper there because they don't have the right to negotiate for a living wage. They're stuck with what the employer gives them. They don't have the ability to force an employer to make their work environment safe. All of the things that unions did for this country decades ago still aren't held up in China. If you get hurt, you're boned. You're not taken care of because you were hurt on the job. That's your fault you were hurt on the job. That's how it's seen over there. Not here. We take those things for granted. But the Chinese don't have those rights. They don't have those protections. They don't have the decency, the common decency that we're afforded as a working class in this country. And we take it for granted. My generation has never lived in a period of time where the weekend didn't exist. My generation has never lived in a period of time where overtime wasn't paid. My generation has never lived in a period of time where people were fired if they got maimed by machinery on the job with no recompense. We forget how much those things matter because we're spoiled by never having to deal without having them. The Chinese do not have those protections. That's why labor's cheap. That's why so many companies in the United States are taking advantage of this loophole that they're allowed to profit from. The NBA is simply the most visible and most easy access to the media company that's dealing with this. They're being caught in the crosshairs. And I think it's self-serving political coverage. I think that when you go after a LeBron James instead of a Jeff Bezos, it's very easy. You need to go after the deep pockets, the ones that are actually causing this problem. LeBron's not causing this problem. He's just keeping his team away from the crosshairs, or at least trying to. He hasn't been effective so far, but he's just being a good team captain. That's it. Is he avoiding the issue? Probably. Is it his issue to talk about? No. We need to take to task the people that are actually heavily invested in this problem. The big corporations that have been taking advantage of these loopholes and taking advantage of the Chinese people in the process. We are supporting the Chinese government's policies that are pretty damn bad, based off of just not caring to think about anything but what's going on in our lives. How cheap we want things to be at Walmart. That's what matters to us. Sorry, Mr. Chinese factory worker. No health care for you. No safe work environments for you. I want things to be made cheaper so I can buy them cheaper. That's what the American public has been saying. In this democracy that's so influenced by money, we vote with our dollar. It's time to start making sure we only spend our money on things we actually agree on what that money is then being spent on afterwards. And if that means not shopping as much on Amazon because we don't like Jeff Bezos, if that means not saving money at Walmart because, the Waltons are a bunch of jerks that don't want to pay their people, that's what we have to do in order to make the world a better place. Not just our own wallets. I'd very much enjoy talking to you guys about this and other subjects going on in the world. I really enjoy sports. I enjoy nerdy things, obviously. But it's because they're escapism. Because the world is a shitty place to think about. When you let it be a shitty place to think about. So if you'd like to talk about one of these deeper subjects regarding China, I'm all ears, and I'll talk to you for weeks. Hit me up in the comments.